Good evening once again, gentlemen, citizens of Tampa. The Tampa City Council evening session will now come to order for September 13, 2021, 5:01 p.m. Roll call vote, please. Roll call.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Dingfelder. Here. Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
And Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. This public hearing of the City of Tampa relating to the Budget and Capital Improvement Plan is being conducted with a live in-person quorum of the Tampa City Council present in City Council's chambers. However, in light of the continuing COVID-19 government health issued standards or guidance in effect, members of the public have the opportunity to participate virtually through what is referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. The public tonight are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the internet at tampa.gov/live stream. Now, the public is invited to participate for the purpose of permitting any and all citizens to do so and to submit their criticisms, recommendations, suggestions, or questions regarding the annual budget during the public hearing that is being held virtually, and there have been alternate means of comment available to the public, which are set forth in the notice of the public meeting and also in the agenda. For instance, written comments by internet or web, written comments by email, U.S. mail, to speak remotely during public comment through the use of CMT by pre-registering, the instructions of which are available on the city's website at tampa.gov/city council, one word. And also, there have been deadlines to pre-register in order to be able to participate. But if you do miss the deadline and do want to participate, you can come to City Hall and use the CMT that's available on the second floor at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard here in Tampa. And please note that those attending the meeting or in person should wear face masks inside Old City Hall. Now, the comments that have been received timely have been distributed and are being made part of the record, and the public comments received by email, mail, web, or via CMT will be afforded equal consideration as if the public comments were made in person. And for members of the public, please be aware that copies of the entire proposed budget are available for review on the city's website at tampa.gov/budget or at the city clerk's office, 3rd floor, City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Also, please check the city's website at tampa.gov for additional information and updates regarding public participation in the public hearing through the use of CMT or in person. And now, Mr. Chairman, based on that, I'd request a waiver of council's rules and request a motion from the City Council that this public hearing be conducted in the manner contained in the published notice of the first City Council budget hearing instead.
Mr. Maniscalco has moved it. Mr. Citro has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Motion to open both public hearings for operating and capital budgets. Mr. Miranda has moved it. Mr. Maniscalco has seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco. Vieira. Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, what is the next item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Dennis Ray.
I need IT to get a little volume. We can't hear him. Can't see him either. All right, I see him. I see him. Chief of Staff, Morris Massey. All right, sir.
Can you see me now, sir?
A little louder. IT, we can't hear him at all in the chambers. Try it again, Mr. Guerrero.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dennis Rajero, CFO. Will the Finance Chair please read the first public hearing statement?
Thank you, Mr. O'Harrell. Mr. Chairman, this is the first reading public hearing for the City of Tampa fiscal year 2022 budget. The proposed millage rate is 6.2076 mils, which is 4.56 more than the rollback millage rate of 5.9367 mils. property tax funds are used to support the general fund operating budget of the city. The fund includes such departments as fire, rescue, police, human resources, parks, and recreation.
Mr. Harrell, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll bring that up now. Please let me know when you can see it.
Waiting on IT presentation.
Okay. Resharing it.
Just bear with us, we're still waiting, sir.
Yes, sir. Is Eric supposed to share it? Yes.
All right, we have it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to just give a very brief recap of the fiscal year 22 recommended budget. Next slide, please. There we are. And there's the, again, very brief agenda. The recommended budget will talk a little bit about our debt program and provide you and the viewing public the next step in our budget calendar. Next slide, please. And here is the fiscal year 22 recommended budget, $1.8 billion, an increase of 31% compared to the current year. And as we've discussed, Council, that increase is primarily associated with some primary items. Expansion of our wastewater, water, and solid waste capital improvement programs, especially that PIPES program, the American Rescue Plan or ARPA funding, transportation grants, especially that $25 million build grant, stormwater and facilities projects, negotiated labor contracts, and additional staffing for fire services, planning, and construction contract administration. We also have increased funding for parks and recreation. You see here our breakout of the major funds and, of course, the two largest components that we talk about the most often, the enterprise funds and the general fund, which, as you can see, make up approximately 2/3 of the total budget. Next slide, please. And here are the expenditure categories for each of those funds. Oh, I'm sorry, the next slide. There we are, the general fund and the enterprise fund. Of course, on the left, the general fund expenditures at just over $480 million. It includes public safety, parks and recreation, economic development, and support operations. And on the right, the enterprise funds at just under or just over $735 million. And of course, you see there the water, wastewater, and solid waste departments making up the primary funding for that overall enterprise fund. Again, the enterprise funds are those self-supporting departments that are anticipated to run like a business. Next slide, please. And here we show the impact of the transfer to the community redevelopment agencies, or the CRAs, on property tax revenues. And we show how the costs of the police and fire by themselves are well over half of the general fund, and far more, as you can see, than we receive in property tax revenue. Next slide, please. Turning our attention to the general fund balance history. As we've discussed on many occasions, this is a very important metric of our financial health, our ability to handle future economic risk, and thus a critical benchmark for rating agencies. Council will recall last year we restructured debt and deferred some expenditures to bolster the percentage of general fund. And you see that here, fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21 were unusually high percentages compared to the history. Fiscal year 22 sees us back to a more historical percentage, as you can see here at 24%. This chart illustrates a nice picture of stability, and we continue to reference this and the information with the credit rating agencies. Next slide. And a summary of our capital improvement program, $2.2 billion over a 5-year period. You can see an incredible amount of emphasis on the wastewater, water, and facilities management areas. You'll also see the Neighborhood Foundations program in the infrastructure and mobility administration line of $14 million. That includes the East Tampa, Forest Hills, McFarland Park, and Virginia Park areas. Next slide, please. Council, just a quick refresh on the significant funding we've allocated in the recommended budget next year for vehicle programs. As we've discussed many times, we are behind the curve in almost all areas, and you see here nearly $33 million identified next year for that program. Next slide, please. I'll run through our debt program now. You can see for 2021, the debt issuances that you have authorized and that we anticipate putting before you in the very near future. Of course, under the authorization, the Convention Center at over $32 million, stormwater at nearly $35 million, and the line of credit extension recently approved for $25 million. Coming forward, we'll do the next contingent of the water and wastewater program and a general fund bond that's going to include these projects that you see here. I'll note the Hannah Avenue Government Center, Fire Station number 24, the Fire Burn Tower, and the Police and Fire Training Complex. So you can look forward to seeing those again in the very near future. Next slide, please. This is some good news and some congratulations, sir. This is a recent Fitch update from last week that continues to cast a very favorable light on our city, our growth prospects, and our financial management. Next slide, please. And that'll lead us nicely into our bond ratings. As we've shared with you before, they're all high grade or better. At the very top, you see the city's version of our FICO score, the issuer credit rating. They are either the highest on the right at Standard & Poor's AAA or the second highest that you can attain for the other two rating agencies. Again, Fitch just reaffirmed their AA+ rating, so thank you again for your ongoing support. Next slide, please. This is our principal outstanding debt service you see as anticipated at the end of this year. The green line shows the outstanding debt for the water and wastewater departments. Those are the only enterprise departments we have outstanding debt service at this time. The blue line is our government outstanding debt, and that's associated with stormwater, community investment taxes, the aquarium, parking, the convention center, mobility, and facilities improvements. One of the things I want to point out on this graph, you can see the debt decreases significantly to fiscal year 30 from approximately $400 million down to $100 million. Most of the remaining debt after that is associated with the stormwater system, and which that significant decline, especially up through fiscal year 30, and then the slight debt service out after that, represents a very, very good debt profile, indicating we have ample capacity for long-term debt. Next slide, please. And finally, again, the remaining step after this public hearing is the second public hearing taking place for final adoption on the 28th of this month. As always, we continue to appreciate council's support and efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That ends the presentation.
Thank you, sir. It's now we'll hear an update from the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. Ms.
Can I ask a question on that presentation?
I think after we think after we, questions are asked after the budget advisory, Mr. Dingfellow, is all scripted, sir. Sorry about that. We'll hear from Mrs. Pointer, Citizen Advisory Committee report. We have her on the line. All right, bring her up.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Stephanie Pointer. I am here representing the Citizen Budget Committee. Our chairman, Mr. Johnson, is traveling this afternoon. We wanted to share some information with you before you make any more decisions this evening. This morning, our committee met with the Revenue and Finance Department representative. We are satisfied that the information shared with the committee about the other services and charges that were part of the budget presented by the city in August. These methods for recording were based on the Florida Uniform Accounting Manual. Detailed information was shared with the committee to give transparency to the funding in question. However, we will be working closely with administration to ensure that other services and charges is properly outlined in the budget with an actual breakdown for each item going forward for the next budget and beyond. We request a re-presentation of our committee recommendations before the City Council prior to or at the final budget meeting, as we are waiting on the administration to get back to us on Tuesday, the 21st, with answers pertaining to our previous recommendations. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you for your service to the committee. I know it's a very important committee, and they've been doing an outstanding job getting answers for the public and also working with the administration to make us more efficient and better. Mr. Harrell's been doing an outstanding job throughout the years, making sure that we're financially responsible and we're spending people's monies correctly. So we thank you for that. We'll get into questions for council members. I'll go one at a time. I'll start out with Mr. Vieira. I know Mr. Dingfellow has some questions. If you want to defer to that, or
obviously, the chair can pick whoever, but I mean, I don't mind Councilman Dingfellow going
Dingfellow, you're
first, but I can
recognized.
go after if
Hi, Dennis, thanks for your presentation. I just had a specific question. I think it was your last slide with the two different lines for principal debt service.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if we can put that slide back up, whoever's controlling that.
We'll put that back up.
There you go. So in regard to the governmental, the blue line, starting out this year at somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 and going down, does that include the anticipated bond that you just spoke to on the slide before, that spoke to Hannah, et cetera, police, fire, Hannah, that bond?
It does not, sir.
Okay.
We haven't issued that debt yet.
Okay, so I mean, as long as you mentioned it, I mean, how large do we anticipate that bond is going to be? Just so we have a better sense of what that blue line is really going to be, and how long a term would we expect that the debt service will be with us?
Yes, sir. Preliminarily, we think the water and wastewater, the second component of that pipes debt, will be $190 million. And the general government bond issue, again, this is preliminary, we think about $150 million.
Okay, and how long on the governmental side? How long a period, a term? Do we?
Oh, I'm sorry, you did ask that. A 30-year term.
30-year term. Okay, so both of those are going to change those curves fairly significantly, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And of course, we'll provide an updated chart for both of those issues.
All right. And then finally, you and I have been talking offline a little bit about the other enterprise fund, which is solid waste. And so
Yes.
that on a revised chart, that would also change the green line as well, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. All right. We look forward to working with you on those. Thank you.
Mr. Viera, you
do, thank
recognize,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir. I had a quick question. I wanted just to say some just observations. Mr. Rajero, you mentioned Fire Station 24. Just for the public's information, where's that going to be at?
I don't know. I don't know that we know yet. Does anybody have a location for this?
And I don't mean
I think-
streetwise. I mean, is that New Tampa, North Tampa, or where?
Yeah, John Bennett, Chief of Staff. It's my understanding, Councilman Vieira, that Fire Station 24 was being examined for the New Tampa area based on growth. But we are still awaiting the final consultant data beyond our own in-house data of where the highest level of service needs are. So 24 may actually be down south of Fowler, pending of finding an exact location in New Tampa based on property and other opportunities. But either way, 24 originally was scoped out for New Tampa, and we're not backing off that analysis and design.
And thank you for that. And does that include as well an analysis of, and we can talk about this a couple weeks in our K-Bar Ranch discussion, but of potentially having a cut through Morrisbridge Road into K-Bar Ranch? Does that include that as well?
Yeah, everything's included to make sure that we reach that level of service standard citywide. So whether it's working on access or station services or increased medical service support, all of those will be included in every community.
Thank you, sir. And question, this budget also includes, whether you call it a new station, a refurbished station, whatever it may be, to help Station 13, correct, at Old Station 11?
It does. Chief Tripp, and I won't speak for her, but she's done a great job being on the ground, talking to the troops, getting a good data-driven understanding of what the needs are in the community. And that did include a refurbish of what was the old Station 11, which could actually take on a new station number and make sure that we have adequate services in those more concentrated heavy call areas.
Thank you. And another question, if I may, that new additional station, whatever you want to call it, refurbished station, that includes a different additional man and woman power, correct? And if you could tell me how much.
It does. The preliminary number is 27 positions, and that's where the Station 24 discussion comes in, because as of now, there is sort of a number usage of 24 that is augmenting the heavy call load in the north end. And that's not to be confused with the need of a physical station, possibly in the New Tampa area. So, we don't want the public to be confused by the numbers. It's all about service delivery. And so it does include making sure that we have approximately just shy of 20 new units in the north end, and then additional units downtown, where we're starting to see the heaviest call load for medical response.
Great, thank you, sir. And I think that's really important to note, because we've been advocating for additional funding for Tampa Fire Rescue in these areas where you have such acute deficits. And I think it's fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, that we could have in this new budget up to 2 additional fire stations, which is a New Tampa, North Tampa. Then we're making plans for something additional in downtown. So in other words, this budget lays the foundation for once-in-a-lifetime investments in public safety and whatnot. And I think that's just so very critical. One other thing I wanted to mention, because I always like to give credit where credit's due. I was looking at this it's about $80 million in federal funds under the American Relief program that we got. That's just for the public's knowledge. That's $80 million that the city of Tampa is getting from this federal program. The past Relief Act that we saw previously, which was remarkable and great, the CARES Act, had a lot of restrictions on what local governments and municipalities could do. This gives us a lot more power and liberality in terms of what we can do with that money. And you take a look at what the administration has decided to spend this money on, $13 million for fire rescue. Without these funds, that wouldn't be happening. $7 million for mobility, that includes resurfacing projects. $3 million for the police, including body-worn cameras, et cetera. $3 million for parks and recreation. $4 million for logistics and asset management, parking, solid waste, technology, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted just to give a public shout out to our Congresswoman Kathy Castor, who did so much to fight for these funds, because again, these funds were put forth in such a way that it gives the city of Tampa a great deal of liberality, and we are using it for a lot of these things. Because without these funds, we would be having a radically different conversation. So I always like to also give credit where credit's due. But, you know, when I take a look at this budget, Mr. Chairman, I see a budget that is good for all parts of our city. It's one that is done through collaboration. I know that we've all met with the mayor on things that we want in there. The mayor has, and Mr. O'Hara, Mr. Bennett, have just been so collaborative in terms of working with city council on that. There's a lot of different things in this budget that are outstanding. It's an affordable housing budget. I know Councilman Dingfelder and Chairman Goods have worked really hard to push that, and I salute them and those great achievements in there. It's also a public safety budget. I had pushed some time ago a public safety master plan to take a look at all of our city and see where our public safety deficits are. And for me, this budget, if you talk to folks in public safety, especially Tampa Fire, their jaws are dropped to the ground, so to speak, when they saw this budget, because it makes such robust improvements within Tampa Fire Rescue and parks. You see improvements in East Tampa, New Tampa, in North Tampa. I hope that our good friend Guido Maniscalco can get his wonderful wishes there for our good friends at Vila Brothers. So this is a very good budget and whatnot as far as I see it. But just wanted to make those comments. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Maniscalco, you recognize, sir.
Thank you very much. And Councilman Vieira really said it all, but just a couple of things. He mentioned road resurfacing, and that's one of the biggest complaints we get is when are we going to pave certain roads throughout the city of Tampa. As I mentioned in a previous meeting, I've reached out to county commissioners. They have earmarked $35 million from their funds to go towards road repaving and improvements. As we know, so many county roads go through the city of Tampa, and I have started to see, at least on one road, the orange barricades going up, which tells me that road improvements are coming at least there and going beyond. So we're addressing those needs, which again, we get so many complaints on. My question is Vila Brothers Park. I spoke at length about it. I did speak with the mayor about it. What can you tell me about Vila Brothers Park?
Yes. Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, so I don't want to speak for Parks and Recreation. But again, yes, I also discussed with Chief Staff and the mayor, and we continue to pursue Vila Brothers Park and the improvements associated with what you've requested.
And again, John Bennett, Chief of Staff, I do want to say, Councilman Maniscalco and all the councilmen who have supported this, not only historic park, but the symbolic nature of this park and what it does for our community. I've had multiple on-the-ground visits with some of the neighborhood leadership, including Sandy Sanchez. I've looked at the improvement blueprints. Osea Wynn, I won't speak for her, and Sharicia Hills, our director over Parks and Recreation. Everybody is very interested in leaning forward and supporting this, and it's not rhetoric. We know that we're going to find the availability to do those improvements to that park for all the reasons that we know. But I also want to remind all of us that, a couple of years ago, we set out to do a master plan. It's probably been a little bit challenged through the COVID process to get all the community interaction, to look at the shifting demographics in the city and make sure that we align the Parks and Rec resources with the programmatic value of each of the changing communities. But in between that master plan, we know there's some real requests out there. And we also know that the city, working with council and the community, had some significant IOUs that also sit between current state and the master plan. And all of those are being filled in to the best ability that we can with both traditional finance and funding opportunities, as well as some of those out of the box. And I'm very confident as Mr. O'Hara mentioned, and you, Councilman Maniscalco, after talking to the mayor, that these things will be fulfilled, awaiting the final master plan and all of those recommendations that come forth through the community channels.
Thank you very much. Now, Vila Brothers, they did the design several years ago at about $2 million, and I believe we've allocated since then $350,000 to $400,000 in park improvements. We've done the restrooms, we've moved the monuments, we've done some playground, sunshade stuff, but there's still about $1.6 million left over to complete the park. What I had mentioned previously was that time is of the essence. This park was dedicated in 2005. 16 years have passed, and 5 of the Vila brothers, all 7 were present at the time of groundbreaking and dedication, but 5 of the 7 Vila brothers have passed away. I've met with one of the remaining Vila brothers most recently. I speak regularly with Miss Sandy Sanchez, with Mrs. Martha Vila, the wife of Mr. Hector Vila, and I want this park finished and completed while those that are still alive are still alive. And time is of the essence. I don't want this to be a posthumous completion. Again, 5 of the 7 Vila brothers have passed, and since the park's dedication in 2005, the city has had its up and downs with the with the financial crisis from years ago and whatnot. But having said that, since then we've done Curtis Dixon Waterfront Park. It's been completed. We did Julian B. Lane Park at $36 million plus. And Vila Brothers, with everything that has gone on around it, with the Jewish Community Center, which the city partners with everything in that neighborhood, Vila Brothers Park has only received just a portion, less than 25% of the total funds. And seeing that we have the American Relief, American Recovery funds that are very liberal in what we can spend the money on, what do we have to do to get that $1.6 million? And then we could even come in under budget. I mean, not that government usually does, but we know that it was a $2 million park designed to complete it. I want to see it completed. I want to guarantee that it gets completed. I originally was intending to split it up in 2 years. Let's say it's a solid $1.6 million, that we do $800,000 in this budget and $800,000 in the next budget, but that we have a 2-year goal and 2-year timeline where it gets completed and it gets done. Because again, Mrs. Martha Vila is now older. Only 2 of the Vila brothers are alive, and I want to get this park done. I've been supportive of many other projects of my colleagues, of the mayor and whatnot, in much larger amounts, and this is just a drop in the bucket, I believe, to get that done. Before I stop, there's also another park, Henry and Ola Park in Seminole Heights, which has a trailer as a community center. And I believe it's the only park in the city of Tampa, one of the only ones where there's a trailer. And we don't own that trailer. I believe we pay rent on that trailer. And we've been paying rent for, I want to say, almost 20 years on that. That neighborhood has changed significantly in the last 20 years. In the last 10 years, we have a lot of families. We have a lot of children. I'd like us to see about allocating funds for Henry and Ola Park for improvements, for a dog park, for a community center, whatever it is, but that neighborhood deserves it. All neighborhoods in the city of Tampa deserve equity across the board, and parks are so significant. The investment will give us endless returns to quality of life. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize, sir. Chief, did you have something to say, sir?
No, I just want to acknowledge Councilman Maniscalco's requests, and that we are working on those, and we are committed to making sure that staff understands the exigency that he represented.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carlson, you recognize.
Yeah, Vila Brothers Park is not in my district, but I would fully support Mr. Maniscalco's efforts in that regard, and I would be happy to second a motion or support a motion in that regard also. We've spent a lot of time in the last 2.5 years righting wrongs from before, and I think if promises are made by the city, even if it was under previous administration, we need to follow through with them. And it's not fair or right to have a press conference to promise the community that the city was going to do something and then not follow through, especially when you're dealing with veterans, war heroes, and the family of veterans and war heroes. And so I would fully support the city keeping the promises of the past, even though none of us made those promises. Second, just to clarify, Mr. O'Hara, for the public, I'm looking at the kind of P&Ls of each of the departments, and the water department, it said 2019 had a loss of 23,000, and then a gain of 180 million in 2020, and then projected loss in 2021 of 137 million, and then a 237,000 gain in 2022. Are we predicting, because of the new taxes, are we predicting that, or new fees, are we predicting that that's going to stable out at this point, or are there just big chunks of expenses that are coming periodically?
Oh, that's it, sir. Thank you. I don't have the information in front of me, but that's the ebb and flow of that major debt service and expenditures associated primarily with the pipes program.
And it wouldn't, I guess I need to get into what kind of accounting you all use too, but even if you bond it, you're not like amortizing it over the life of the bond, you're just charging it in the actual year?
I guess I don't understand.
So if you bond out $1 billion, and would you amortize that cost over the life of the bond, or would you charge it back in the year that the actual expense is made?
So we would carry that, especially, and I'll use pipes as an example. As we've discussed, we've got a great deal of pay-go funding, and we've also front-loaded the debt service to take advantage of the current market conditions. So what I'm guessing is that what you're looking at is the ebb and flow associated with the counting of all that funding and the anticipated expenditure. But I'd be happy to circle back to you and go over in more detail.
Yeah, just for the purpose of letting the public know. And then also, same thing in technology and innovation. I think we're going to be investing in a big CRM system. I don't know if that's reflected here. Maybe it's farther out than 2022, but we're showing losses around 27 million, 26 million, 2020 and 2021, and then almost 39 million, 2020 projected 2021, and then 32 million in 2022. Is that including the big enterprise customer service system or not?
I don't believe so. I think that's primarily due to our Excella system. But again, I'll confirm that and circle back.
And is there any way, none of that is offset very much by fees or income? Is there some revenue model that's offsetting that, or no? Is there some?
No, sir. It's primarily.
Okay.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Carlson,
It's
I
primarily.
think Mr. Miranda.
I'm sorry.
You ready?
I'm fine.
Okay.
The other thing, I wanted to thank you all for listening to all of us and all of our requests. One of the things that I've requested now 3 times in a row is to carefully monitor the general fund balance and increase it. If the bonding agencies to keep our AAA bond rating require us to have a certain percentage, then that means that anything from that level below is not a rainy day fund. Only anything above that is a rainy day fund. And I know there's a certain trade-off because we can't hold too much cash, but knowing the uncertainties in the market, I would always appreciate that we would try to be fiscally prudent and put as much as possible away to preserve that. So thank you all for focusing on that. An area that I did not ask this year, but maybe next year, is the arts. Arts and culture, the budget's very small. When we all started, I know this is an area the mayor is very interested in, and other than hitting COVID, I think she would have invested heavily in it. But I hope that we can get back as the economy starts to recover to invest more heavily in the arts. And then I also looked at the infographics that are in each department that go with that, and that I'm sure Chief Bennett worked on. But one of them shows the distribution of the arts investment throughout the city, and almost all of it is downtown, like 98% or 99%. And so, we have requests for the arts everywhere from East Tampa, West Tampa, North, and South. for example, lots of people south of Gandy want the arts in their community too. So that's something for next year, but just to be mindful. The last thing, and I could ask a lot of questions on the budget in general, but the last thing is in the intro, which is a letter from the mayor, and I guess I could make a motion for us to request the mayor would edit the letter, but maybe I could just tell you all this as an idea. In the letter, I think the letter is very good, and the letter represents, if you look at all the headings that are in the letter, workforce, housing affordability, infrastructure mobility, our constituents want parks fixed, they want roads resurfaced, they want potholes fixed, sustainability and resilience. I think City Council and the mayor are on the same page on all these things. The same things that are the mayor's priorities are also council's priorities that we're hearing from the community. The one thing that I saw in this summary that looks different, though, is if you look just above strengthening community-centric services, it says, the paragraph above says, while providing funding for all central government services, we've also been able to include funds to start addressing several key requests from community and city council. And number one there is the Hannah Avenue facility. And I'm not aware that request came from the community, but I'm pretty sure it did not come from city council. And also number four is, anyway, of the things there, I think one or two of them maybe came from council. But my suggestion and request is, instead of putting that these key requests came from community and the city council, instead of putting that phrase there, put it at the top in the intro paragraph, because all of the things that are in this letter and the priorities that you all set and that are reflected in the budget and showing the tweaks and the increases throughout all the detail really are from feedback from the community, and I think city council and the mayor are on the same page. The way it's written, it looks like city council is only interested in those four things, and I think we're interested in all of them. So just a request to whoever wrote that, if we could just move that phrase to the top, that would be clear to the community and show that we're all on the same page. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Carl.
Chairman, if I could make a
Go
quick
ahead,
comment.
Chief. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman Carlson, I just want to point that is not visible yet, but something that Marley Wilkes' office works on very well is our Citizens Value Survey, or Citizens Sentiment Survey. And I just want to let you know that she added a sentiment element of arts and cultural. So that'll get a citywide feedback for us going into future investments and decision support. So I just wanted to let you know that's been added to that survey list.
Yeah, and what I would encourage us to do is in surveys, we need to think not about the arts as an amenity, but we need to think of it as an industry. And so every EDC in the world has 5 or 6 industry clusters that they focus on. In St. Petersburg, one of the 5 is the arts. And that's because it's a real thriving industry. And if we look at it as an amenity compared to other amenities and prioritize it, that's one thing. But we have the real possibility to build an enormous industry here that will bring money into our economy. And so I hope we'll look at it that way as well. Thank you.
I think Mr. Miranda wanted to chime in on a
No,
few-
I'm fine now. I was just
Yep.
going to say that one of those bonds was front-loaded with 47% public participation up front and 53% being bonded out.
All right, Mr. Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank Councilman Vieira for his efforts for a new fire station and asking that fire station be placed in this budget. I also like to thank Councilman Maniscalco and his efforts for Avila Brothers Park. These are two necessities that hopefully this budget will provide. My concerns, staffing. We have departments that my constituents are saying that are understaffed. And I'm hoping this budget is going to allow us for more hiring. One day soon this COVID is going to be over with, and parents are going to tell the children, go out and play. And our city parks are going to be valuable for that, and I hope we're going to have the staffing so that when that event happens, and finally our kids are back out to the playgrounds, that we will have the staff for that. Construction services. People are complaining to me that they can't get their things in fast enough and get answers from construction services. Permitting. Getting COs for their properties, for their businesses, so that they can enter into the tax revenues here for the city is taking a long time. Not any fault of theirs, but understandably, they do not have the staffing for it. Fire. We're going to be having hopefully having 2 new stations. But we have this separation between firefighters and the upper command, and nobody in there filling that. We need more staffing. Again, I'm hoping that this budget is going to allow us to hire more employees for the city of Tampa. I am, as chair of CRA, I'm glad that CRA could help in certain things, like parks with Fair Oaks, buying properties, the cultural arts, hopefully looking for land for fire station downtown, and of course the purchase of land for workforce affordable housing. Gentlemen, please, if we can find funds for staffing in this budget, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dingfelder, you recognize, sir.
Mr. Bennett, do you want an opportunity to respond to Mr. Citro?
Well, thank you, Councilman Dingfelder. In a general sense, Councilman Citro, as you heard Mr. O'Hara's beginning presentation, there are quite a few FTEs related to opportunities to serve the community, especially in the fire service, based on the data that we have so far. Chief Tripp and I have been working with Mr. O'Hara's office, looking at a 3 to 5 year plan to make sure we can keep up with the dynamics of a great city like ours. So I think you're going to see all the things that you're talking about. Often we talk about people, processes, and technology. I don't want to speak for Ms. Post, but I will tell you that I hear daily about the improvements that are going on there to serve the demand that is going through the growth management side of the city. So I think everything you're asking for, you will see unpack itself throughout the budget process.
Thank you, Chief.
You recognize, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Goods. So, in regard to Villa Brothers Park, Mr. Maniscalco, appreciate you reminding us about that, as well as the family members. I have a little bit of problem with the generalities that we've heard, Mr. Bennett and Mr. O'Hara. With all due respect, I think council spoke pretty loud and clear at our own budget workshop a few weeks ago on this issue. I can't remember if that exact number was tossed out. I think what Mr. Maniscalco is indicating affirmatively that it was. I think I think it's a fairly reasonable compromise to split that baby at $800,000 per year so we can get this thing done. And it is embarrassing because the last time I was on council, and Mr. Miranda was there as well, back in the 2000s, was when we started this conversation with the Villa Brothers family, and with that, and of equal importance with that community. And what we've seen in that community of West Tampa, especially as you slide over toward the University of Tampa, is massive apartment complexes. And yes, there's a nice park over there on the river that Mayor Buckhorn and council and the city built, but but they need more, and they want more, and they deserve more. So I would love for us to have more specifics by, I think, what are we meeting, 2 weeks from now for the final budget?
28th.
On that $800,000 request that, frankly, as I recall, was pretty unanimous from this council. In years past, we got into motions and that sort of thing, and it got with a little bit more animosity with the administration. I don't think anybody has any great desire for that. But things got done. and we saw that needle move. So I'm not necessarily, I'll leave it up to Mr. Maniscalco, but you know, I'm not going to make a motion tonight, but I think you're hearing loud and clear from council that that's extremely important and we need to figure it out. A smaller park request that was on my list, as well as Mr. Maniscalco mentioned it, was Henry and Ola. And I met with Ms. Hill out there and her staff, and I kind of got a little pat on the back and said, yeah, they're gonna make sure some things happen this year. But again, I haven't really heard much in the way of specifics. But that one, I think the needs are significantly less in terms of the dollar amount as compared to the plans that have been made for Vila Brothers Park. That's my 2 cents. In regard to the vehicle program, Mr. Bennett, on a little bit of a lighter note, do we have any opportunity for electric vehicles? I mean, obviously, when we're buying big giant trucks and fire trucks and that sort of thing, they're not going to be solar powered or electric powered or what have you. But in regard to our day-to-day vehicular needs, what does that look like in terms of electrifying our fleet and getting away from gas vehicles?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Dingfelder. That's a great question. As you know, that we did some ad hoc adjustments during the procurement process to convert some of our traditional fuel vehicles to EVs, electric vehicles. And I know that there are certain departments and divisions that are fully committing to those. As far as specifics go, I know Sal Ruggiero, our assistant or a deputy administrator over infrastructure services, is on. Sal, do you want to comment to Councilman Dingfelder's request?
Yes, sir, Chief. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir, Chief. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir, Chief. Okay, so. Can you hear me? Yep. Yes, sir. Okay, so.
We're getting some weird feedback, Sal.
And we're having a little technical difficulty here for a second.
Sound better.
Okay, so last year we purchased, as an intro, we purchased 6 electric vehicles, which were the Nissan Leaf, and we mainly issued them to the water department and construction services for the supervisors, just to try them out, and we got some good results out of that. So this year we purchased another 11, and 6 of them are actually on the road right now with code enforcement, 3 in risk management, and 2 in contract admin. So we're going to, these Nissan Leafs are really putting up to the test. We're going to add more. We're bringing, we're talking to the police department, fire, and we're going to introduce a lot more of these EVs into our system. The other thing that we're getting good results with are the hybrids and the police interceptors. They're performing very well. There are some, bigger trucks coming online that we're monitoring as far as like solid waste, but they're not out on the street yet. And when they are, we're going to investigate the possible usage of that. So to answer your question, Councilman, yeah, we're very in tune with the EVs. It's the mayor's, resiliency is high on this issue, and we're going to do the best to introduce a lot more of the electric vehicles as we can. Thanks.
I guess as far as solid waste is concerned, Sal, have we converted some of that fleet? I know we have these gas, natural gas tanks. Have we converted some of the fleet to a natural gas instead of diesel?
Yes, sir. We have approximately 90 plus vehicles that run on CNG gas, and each year when we do our vehicle orders, we kind of split it. So we are trying to get a good mix in there of CNG and diesel, and then when we can, I know there's some EVs coming online for solid waste vehicles, In fact, we did a virtual tour of a company that's producing them, but they haven't hit the street yet. And we're going to investigate that when they do.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Miranda, your
Chairman.
recognize, sir.
Thank you. First of all, when we talk about replacement of automobiles and equipment and tractors and fire engines and haulers and solid waste materials pickup, how many vehicles do we have? You can't buy them all at one time. And by the way, the environment of the electrical movement is going to move so fast that whether we want to or don't want to, within not only this government, all the governments, by 2030, I would say that most governments are going to have electric vehicles. 50 to 100% of the vehicles will be powered by electricity. Because you're not going to find too many cars that are coming out with with engines that are like they are now, gasoline or diesel engines, including the semis. There's 3 or 4 companies already that are going to build them out. They're already being tried out. And they don't go 200 or 300 miles. They go much further. It's a battery that makes the electric engine go obsolete, and the battery system is now changing so rapidly that every time you see a battery comes out to solid waste, there's another solid battery, there's another one that's better than the solid battery. That's coming out next. And that'll power a car 400 or 500 miles instead of 300. So, but I always say, don't ask what somebody you want them to do, ask what you're doing yourself. No offense made to anyone. Just think about it. What do you drive? What's in your house? What you do? It's the same thing as the government. We are no better than the government. We are a reflection of who we are. So I'm asking all the council members to do the same thing you're asking for. That's number one. Number two, regarding Villa Brothers, I've had a commitment from the administration, not yesterday, but for some time, that Villa Brothers are going to get one or the other this year and the other one possibly next year. And that was, I talked to someone in the Villa Brothers organization, which was Mrs. Sanchez, and we made no commitments, but I think what they like to have first is the walk around the park, and then the dog park next year. Because that way, if you have a dog park, what are you going to do? Just stay and watch the dog? Now, if you have a dog, without the dog park first, you have the complete circle around, you can walk the dog and still have your exercise and see the young kids playing and enjoying themselves. So I believe that's what the administration is going to do. I can't speak for them, but I think the first part is going to be the walkway, Mr. Guido Maniscalco, and you're right. You're absolutely right, sir. I agree with you. But along with solid waste, there's one thing we haven't discussed. And that's another thing, and I'm not taking up for the administration, but I want to thank Mayor Aureo, because she's the only mayor that I worked with in the last 20 years or so, that when she came in, HE double sticks went to hell. There was nothing. She had to reduce by 700 employees. She had to do the hard job that we're now bearing the fruits for. She took the hit and made the city work among all those things. It was her that did the hard job so that we could have a prosperous Tampa. The rest was difficult because now we're faced with the opposite. If you have 5 pounds of meat and all of a sudden you got 10 kids coming to the house, that 5 pound of meat ain't gonna last like it was if you were living alone. That's what we have now. In reality, when you look at it, we have a growth in the city that spurred so quickly that even the analyst was wrong. The water going to South Hillsborough County, we projected it so much in another agency, and guess what? They got there a few years before. And that's where the problem is today. We're growing so much because the people of this country are looking at the state of Florida as where they want to come to, for whatever reason. We voted #1 the other day in the whole country for technology innovation. I thought that would never happen, to be honest with you. Beating New York, beating California, beating Texas, beating all of them. The city of Tampa was rated #1. I read that, saw that on TV. So these are the things that are amazing to me, but solid waste needs a little help. With all the traffic and all the narrow streets in South Tampa, I believe they only have one small vehicle that can service that area. And I'm a little concerned, not a little, I'm a lot concerned about the individuals who drive those big trucks that have parking on both sides of the street that the truck hardly fits through, and sometimes they can't pick up the garbage because they're parking on both sides of the street. And I'm not telling the people to halt, don't drive a car, not at all. But maybe we can work with the neighborhoods to do something between the hours of 6 in the morning and 11 o'clock or something. We can park on one side of the street on the days we pick up the garbage. But in the meantime, we only have one small truck, and I've been in contact with the administrators of that office, and I think we're going to get something done in the near future, hopefully sooner than later. So those are the things that I'm looking at, but I got to thank all the general employees for having this city clean city, all the solid waste people, all the fire, all the police. Without the work that the employees do for the city of Tampa, no matter what we do, you fail. No matter if you own a restaurant or the most luxurious hotel in the world, you got to have a foundation of employees to keep you going. And I don't think there's any city run better than this one, and no city has better employees than this one. And I stick by that. So I understand that we have some things, but remember, I'm going to give you 2 words to fear in the future. And those words are development rights. Just remember, I'm not going to say anything about it. Remember the 2 words, development rights. And you're going to see what's going to happen in this city in the near future. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, I hate to interrupt.
You recognize, sir?
I just very quickly, gentlemen, there is a name that I had forgot to mention. Angus Goss. There are a lot of people that want to see that memorial, that park, that pool, still honoring that brave soldier. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome, sir. Well, I think we've all received calls about what people want to see in their communities. We always get complaints. We're never going to make everybody happy. It's never going to happen. Never. But we can do our best to ease the pain, ease the burden a little bit, though. What I want to talk about first, the calls that I'm getting, and somebody tried to walk me through the website last night, reference the budget. Folks are saying it's very difficult to read the budget on the website. They can't maneuver it. I tried to get on it last night and get a walkthrough, and I had difficulties as well. With a lot of things that we have going on, when it's this time, people need to be able to hit the button and be able to go to click whatever to get where they need to go to get the information they need, and people find it is very difficult to read the budget on the website. We may not can get it done before the 28th, but I'm hoping in the future that we really work on getting the website for the budget, that anybody can get on there, a small kid can get on there, look at the word budget 2025, click on the budget, and go to it and be able to find whatever to get their answers. That's the chief complaint I'm getting in reference to our budget process, as far as people feel it's not transparent enough, or it may be we just can't find it or don't know how to utilize the system. So if we can look at the system and navigate that. Mr. Citro made a point about staffing. The city is growing. Mr. Miranda just alluded to that. Everybody wants to come here now. Housing market is up. People sell their houses up north. They have cash. They come down here, and those folks who live here can't get a place. Can't get a place because they got cash in hand. So the folks who have been living here, born and raised here, lose out. When you talk about staffing, we get calls about construction service. I think Ms. Post has done a great job with trying to get some of the aspects and the kinks out, but we're still missing the point to where people are saying they can't get their work completed to get their jobs done. So there's a staffing issue. Then it turns into my housing issue when looking at staffing for housing. We could talk about, fire needs, what we need, the fire stations. That's a need. We know that. But I'm going to tell this council the biggest crisis we're going to face is housing. I don't care how you look at it. It's housing. And when a person doesn't have a place to live, a place to lay their heads, that's a problem. Because it's a problem for other people. Because they look for help other places, then they can't find it. So I really want to make sure I understand the bulk so the community can know where we're going with housing and how much money will be allocated for housing in a non-subsidized aspect so people can be able to get what they need, or we can help them, because that seems to be the big cry right now, housing. So if the chief or whoever's on the line from housing can talk to us about the total money that's going to be allocated in a non-subsidized way to be able to bring programs that's going to help everybody and not have certain strings attached or certain criteria that people can't be able to get help. So if I could just hear that, because I know I've got so many calls on that in reference to housing.
Thank you, Chairman. John Bennett, Chief of Staff. I think the best way to go about your question, which is a good one, and clearly one of the mayor's highest priorities is housing as well, is we'll let our CFO, Dennis O'Hara, talk about it in a quantitative budget way, and then we'll turn it over to Carol Post and her portfolio to talk about the programmatic side of the FY22 budget.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, Mr. Chair, in fiscal year 22, and I believe it was part of our budget presentation, we have, as we've discussed, $16 million of American Rescue Plan Act funding for the housing department. We also have an anticipated $18 million in anticipated grants for the housing department in fiscal year 22. We also have an amount that is unspent in the current year that will carry forward for expenditure in the next fiscal year. So nearly $35 million in housing between ARPA and the anticipated grants next year. For more detail, as the chief said, I'll defer to Ms. Post.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Carol Post, Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, Carol.
Terrific. Thank you. I appreciate your comments about housing. I think I've had conversations with each of you and certainly with you, Chair Goods, about the needs that are there and our desire to drive a very aggressive agenda forward to support and begin to fill those needs. And we have those on many fronts. I am joined this afternoon by Abby Feely, our Director of Development and Growth Management, who can add some detail about some of our programming. I did want to echo what Dennis O'Hara mentioned, though, from a budget perspective, is that we now have the benefit of multiple fund sources, thank you, of multiple fund sources that we have not otherwise had at our disposal. So certainly the grant funds that were referenced that bring us to about a $19 million total. And as we all know, those carry a fair amount of restrictions. They do serve a wide range of needs, and we're very grateful to have that balance. But the doors have been opened to us in a more liberal way through the use of both CARES funds, of which we have approximately $14 million left to be spent throughout this fiscal year and then into a few fiscal years moving forward. And now with the introduction of the Arpa funds that further grow that balance and have even less restrictions. I do want to notice that these are not completely unrestricted funds. They do have criteria. There are certain eligibility criteria, and there are expenditure deadlines that come. There are some strings attached, if you will, but they are far less restrictive than the funds we typically are exposed to. And for that reason, we are very excited to be able to open a number of doors to new programming, as well as expand existing programming to individuals who would not otherwise qualify for many of the federal funds that we already receive. So with that, I will pause. And Abby, if you'd like to just add any detail.
I want to say this, Carol. I respect what you're saying, but I went to the Florida League of Cities and I listened to the presentation for those who are giving those funds. And there are not many restrictions on those funds. That's why you see a lot of cities right now are putting the vast majority of their ARPA money into housing because there are no restrictions right now as it relates to that. So I just want to we let the public know that, hey, we have these dollars and we need to make sure, because it's a non-subsidized way, to get them out to the people. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that yes, there might be some small restrictions, but there are not many as it relates to housing.
I agree, 100%. One of the constraints that does exist is expenditure deadlines, so we're mindful of those, but we are eager to rapidly begin moving these funds out. The other really exciting thing about the funds is that they can be put toward acquisition and lot readiness improvements. And we know that that is a primary way for us to be able to activate assets that we already exist but have not had funding before, to be able to put those back into the marketplace. Often that would fall to a developer or a contractor or a builder to have to bring that online. So we're able to, as we've set out for the use of this 16 million, probably largely half of it may go toward activating municipal assets in a way that put them so that they can become active housing stock. I don't know if you all have specific questions. Again, I have Abby here with me if you'd like for us to elaborate on some of the programming and planning that we are anticipating for the ARPA funds. We'd be happy to do that, or if you have specific questions, we are ready, willing, and able for a discussion.
I think for me with Abby, I think is making sure that we have a robust rehab program, that we don't have to worry about restricted funds to do this and that. I think that is key. We have housing stock in a lot of the areas, like you said. We need to put our money to get and acquire that housing stock to put people in those houses, or as far as development, some of these older buildings, to make apartments out of them for affordable housing for these marginalized communities. I think those dollars can be really utilized and partnered with other developers to be able to have a robust housing program within some of these communities. So that's what I'm hoping that money is really geared to really do. Not necessarily new housing, but I think a lot of rehab and building communities that are already existing. Any other council members have questions related to housing? Ms. Feely, did you want to say anything?
Good evening, Chairman Goods, City Council. I did just want to remind you that we did come before you just at the end of July on the action plan that had funds. And the end of this month, we're bringing back those agreements for the distribution of those funds as we outlined in that program. The other item that, as Carol just mentioned, we are looking at will be to expand the owner-occupied rehabilitation, the down payment assistance program, and the the third one, it's escaping me right now, with unrestricted funds. So as we've discussed in previous, we do have those restrictions right now up to the 80%. Our goal in this fiscal year is to expand that, as you just mentioned, to serve the 80 to the 140, because much of these funds are unrestricted in that manner. So we will be taking those efforts and moving forward on that as the funds are received.
Thank you so much. Anyone else on this topic? All right, I don't have any more questions. Mr. Rajero, what's up next, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will you please open public comments for the operating and capital budgets?
All right, public comment is now open for the operating and capital budgets. Madam Deputy Clerk, we have the second floor. One person registered? Okay, all right, we'll go downstairs first, and we'll go to the phone lines next. Second floor. We have anybody down on the second floor?
Yes, she's coming.
Thank you.
Just a moment. Good afternoon.
Good evening. State your name for us, please.
Marissa Bodden. Could you hold the time while I put some photos on the board, please?
I'll hold it for you.
She can put the mic up.
And if you want to lift your microphone up, Mr. Miranda says, so we can hear you a little bit. There you go.
I should just be 3 minutes, but please grant me if I'm a few minutes over.
We're gonna let you put it on the Elmo there. All right, we'll start the timer.
Okay. I'm making the following recommendations for FY22. For the $40 million which the city has received from the federal government for COVID relief, I believe we should be using this money for items that benefit the citizens of Tampa in regards to COVID. As you can see from the article entitled 5G Technology and Induction of Coronavirus in Skin Cells, 5G millimeter waves are able to be absorbed by skin cells, transferred to other cells, and generate COVID cells. Shungite is a stone known for its absorption of 98% of electromagnetic radiation emitted by electronic devices and other machinery, such as the cell towers that surround us in our everyday lives. The chemical makeup of the stone contains a molecular structure that is unique to the geology of Earth. A Shungite room is a room with walls and floor made from Shungite tiles, or a room painted with Shungite paint, which contains a ground-up mixture of Shungite powder. The first Shungite room was established in a military medical academy in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1996. Such rooms are common in rehab centers and hospitals all over the world. According to scientists, Shungite rooms accelerate the process of recovery of serious diseases by generating the immune system to combat disease faster. Studies have shown that up to 15 minutes spent in a Shungite room improves blood circulation, normalizes pressure, and improves metabolism. Due to its antiseptic properties, it also helps bronchitis, asthma, and respiratory illnesses. For this reason, medical treatment received in a Shungite room has increased efficiency. The average hospital stay needed for overall recovery has been shown to decrease by up to 3 days. Therefore, hospitals can raise the number of patients treated per year without much additional costs. Therefore, in summary, I ask you, are we going to spend a donation by the federal government with its purpose being to help Americans recover from COVID for something other than recovery from COVID? Shungite paint is simply Shungite powder mixed with paint. Shungite powder costs roughly $44 for a 2-pound bag.
Give you 10 seconds, young lady.
Can I finish the last?
Give you 10 seconds to finish.
Okay. The mixture to create Shungite paint is 1 tablespoon powder to 1 gallon of paint. Depending on the type of paint the city of Tampa decides to use and the amount of rooms the city paints, the allocation of funds for the cost of this project would be mainly the amount it would take to pay the painters. That is, if you paint existing rooms rather than building a new facility. Some options for this are designating one room out of the Parks and Rec community centers, or issuing the funds to our local hospitals or medical treatment centers for such designated use.
All right, young lady, that's your 10 seconds. I gave you 10 seconds over, so thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
We have anybody else on the second floor? Anybody else on the second floor?
No, sir, that's all.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Madam Deputy Clerk, we'll go to the phone lines.
Yes, the first speaker we have is Angel D'Angelo. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Angel D'Angelo, born and raised in Tampa, Florida. I want to echo Councilmember Good's sentiments about housing. This is a crisis that we can avoid. All of it's avoidable, but that's beside the point. We need to prioritize making sure people, not just homeowners, but renters, are protected. We could do a renter's bailout with some of this money and make sure people get caught up to avoid this houseless crisis. We need to look at universal child care as an option. We could be trailblazers there, regardless of your income status, regardless of how old your child is. The Head Start program in the county just doesn't cover enough You have to be up to 5 years old and be at 100% of the poverty line or below. That's just not sufficient enough for most people in Tampa. We need to look at a jobs program that looks at people with felonies, people with disabilities, trans, gay, queer, black, brown, indigenous people, immigrants, getting them employed, gainful employment. We need to look at all these different options for our community. This money needs to go directly to us instead of giving TPD any more money. We've been investing in TPD forever and we haven't gotten any safer or better. Things have only gotten really worse and the community relationships haven't gotten that much better from last year. So I just echo these sentiments from last year to defund the police and refund the community. It's something we have to move towards so that way we can have an equitable society that works for everybody. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next caller.
The next speaker is Louise Thompson. If you could hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me back?
We can hear you.
Okay. So this is Louise Thompson, Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network, and a Tampa Bay area resident for more than 40 years. I'm wanting to thank you, first of all. I think it was tremendous that you got us back in the budget, Speak Up Tampa Bay Community Network, that you got us back in the budget after a 3-year hiatus after the previous administration defunded us. And so thank you so much for that. I'm thanking you, but at the same time asking you for more. And the reason is we were funded again, but at a very low rate. We had been originally funded by the city of Tampa for $540,000. It got dwindling down to the fact that we were at $207,000 prior to being defunded. And we really need the money because we have equipment that needs to be replaced and new equipment that needs to be purchased and software. We have a great mission. We're training individuals. We're doing workforce training and nonprofits in video production, which, as you probably all know, is the place to be these days because everything has to be on video today. So we are helping people get their messages out on cable, the internet, and also helping them get employed. We get a lot of inexperienced hands on using our equipment, which is costly to maintain, repair, and replace. And right now, that's where we are, needing to replace them. So I ask you to at least, if you could put us in the budget for $300,000, that would be great. If you can't, if you could take us back to our prior to the defunding level, $207,360, that would be enormously appreciated. But again, thank you so much for all you do. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Antonia McCutcheon. If you could hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Good evening. Hope you are all doing well. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Antonia McCutcheon, and I am the programming manager at Tampa Bay Community Network. And the reason I am speaking today is to request that the council considers increasing our funding for the next fiscal year 2022. First off, I did want to let you know just how grateful we all are that we are once again in the city budget for the amount of $108,000. Very grateful. This amount was rolled over from last year when we were voted back into the budget with the help of the city council, and on behalf of everyone at TBCN, we can't thank you enough. However, as grateful as we are, unfortunately, it is still not enough. I wish it were. We've had many losses throughout the 3 years after Mayor Buckhorn chose to cut us out of the budget. We suffered loss after loss, including not being able to purchase new equipment or even fix the broken equipment we currently have. We've had to lay off staff and had to cut out many of our wonderful programs. We've been operating on a loss-by-loss basis, and although the current city funding has helped us a little bit, it has been unable to completely get us out of the bare-bones predicament that we have been in, and we are at a point where an increase in funding is truly a necessity, as our equipment is in dire need of replacement, and we need to be able to bring back some of those community programs that we have lost. So we ask you, the City Council, to please consider getting us back to at least what we were receiving right before Mayor Buckhorn cut us out of the budget in 2018, and that was the amount of $207,000. The City of Tampa residents and businesses need us. Video is more important than ever, especially in the age of the internet. And we are not just a TV station anymore, but we are everything video, in studio and online. We are a very big part of the workforce and also in the nonprofit sector. Video is an ever-growing field, and it continues to grow exponentially, especially here in Tampa. And there's nowhere else the community can go to get their needs met. We are it. Thank you so much for your consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next speaker is Zulima Ramos. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, council members. I'm Zulima Ramos with the Tampa Bay Housing Justice Committee, a group of over 150 residents committed to getting a roof over every head. When deciding on this budget, please keep in mind the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution. It abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime. It made prison slavery legal now with razor wire plantations and better trained people who enforce it. I co-run a hotline, and this is one of the many messages like it we received. I need help. I'm about to lose my home today, and I have 3 kids. I'm a single parent now since my husband passed from COVID. I used to work at Northwestern before this COVID virus came around. Please, please, I just need to provide my landlord with something. Anything. I can't lose my home. I just lost my husband and have no other family, please. We clearly need more funds for programs like Cahoots, a successful alternative to police, for housing, gardens and food deserts, healthcare, solar-powered public transit, childcare, education, parks and rec, green energy, climate crisis weathered preparedness, pandemic relief, and other existing community-led programs which actually stop criminalized behavior. We do not need more money for a slavery department like TPD, who openly doxes and slanders residents using city platforms and funds, who uses chemical agents against children, who displaces hungry and houseless people, and who murder disabled elders like Arthur Green Jr. The solutions have already been implemented and studied for you, and they cost less money and lives. Just ask the Institute for the Development of Human Arts, which provides training and resources for shifting policy and practice in mental health care, and gathers experts from all over the country who share strategies and successes around eliminating law enforcement from crisis care. Let's learn from Mental Health First Oakland, a mobile crisis response unit that provides assistance and resources and puts callers' needs first. That program is based on a culture of solidarity, compassion, and relying on supporting community-led mutual aid that already exists, especially in communities of color as a result of police brutality and harassment. We the people have been working hard to completely end poverty and injustice. So please join us and defund the police and refund the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Lundy Harrison. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Harrison Lundy. I am a Tampa Bay resident, and the main message that I just want to get across personally, just as it relates to this budget, is the issue of housing. And I think that it's very good that this is being echoed, and I hope that it continues on after this hearing. I also want to point out a very recent report by the Tampa Bay Times that found that it takes up to 3 minimum wage jobs to make rent, and that the average or working class low wage worker in Tampa Bay may spend more than 30% of their income on rent. And this is definitely a budget issue. This is in the same metro area where roads and sidewalks are in need of construction, and the environmental disasters nationwide keep climbing as a reflection of the city of Tampa. So we do need a resilient Tampa, as Mayor Castro says, but we also need a resilient Tampa that compels people to consider our community voice as well. Many grassroots organizations in this area, I could name a few, such as PSL Tampa Bay, Dream Defenders, and so on, have been pushing for a revamp on affordable housing, a re-examination on police budget, especially to include mental health crisis services, and a call to action on how we can set the standard for environmental responsibility. Our fiscal examinations need everybody, especially our working class communities, especially our communities of color, and especially at-risk communities navigating this pandemic, that we are able to include folks in the way that we govern our budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker we have is Jason Kimball. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to discuss COVID-19 relief funds, and I haven't been able to review the budget, see where funds are going, but my public comment's really going to be about Tampa General Hospital. If there's any funds going to TGH or to TGH doctors to consult on anything for the city. There's a dire situation going on right now at Tampa General Hospital that I don't think anybody is aware of, and I have firsthand knowledge of it. They're intubating everyone that goes into Tampa General Hospital right now as a first line of action. They're using high fatality treatment protocols, and I think that the City Council really needs to do an investigation. It might be outside the purview of this hearing, but I just think that you guys need to be made aware of this as soon as possible, that Tampa City residents are in danger when they go to Tampa General Hospital. And I think that any of the city's involvement with the hospital needs to be reviewed, and especially from a budget standpoint, any sort of funds that are going over to them. It's a dire situation. They're intubating people illegally. I'm going to follow up with this and send City Council members some information about what's going on over there. But essentially, when you call 911 and you go to that hospital, you're going into a bad situation. You're not just going in to get treatment. You're going into a very bad situation. And I want to make everybody aware as soon as possible. You know, I'm just finding this out from the weekend and Thursday and Friday, things that I found out, experienced firsthand. So I appreciate you guys' time. I hope you guys have a good night. And please remember this, and please look into Tampa General Hospital and their treatment of our residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dingfield, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just a point of order, and while we respect the First Amendment rights of everybody who calls in, I'm going to rebut that last comment. I think it's an extremely dangerous comment to be spreading to the community that they shouldn't go to Tampa General Hospital. To the contrary, Tampa General Hospital is, if not the most finest hospital in this community. It's one of the top 1 or 2 hospitals in this community. I used to serve on the board of Tampa General Hospital years ago, and there's no finer place. The doctors and staff are dedicated to saving lives, and if I was sick with COVID or anything else significant and I needed to go to a hospital, I would go to Tampa General Hospital. This is not an advertisement for TGH, but I think that that was a very dangerous comment from that individual, and people listen to ridiculous comments and you know, for some reason they don't do their own research. So anyway, I feel very passionate about that, Mr. Chairman. I rarely chime in and respond to people's comments, but that one I think was extremely dangerous. You know, with all due respect to the gentleman, he can have his own opinions, and that's all fine. This is my opinion as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miranda, you're recognized.
I want to echo Mr. Dingfelder's remarks. I think when you see that hospitals ranked in the top 5 or 6 or 7 in different areas, from heart to diabetes to kidney to rank one of the top 10 maybe in the whole area, top 10 in Florida for sure in hospitalization, and the amount of volume that they do, the doctors and nurses. When I'm sick, and I'm not here advertising for Tampa General or any other hospital, we got great hospitals here, but Tampa General is where I go. And when I had COVID, that's where I went. I didn't stay overnight, but I was treated there and released, not once, but twice. And I can only say that I was treated with the utmost respect, not any different than anyone else that I noticed. I went through the emergency room like anyone else does, and they, for anyone, not because I'm an elected official, I was treating like any other patient. And I can tell you that it's one of the finest hospitals I've been in. Nothing wrong with St. Joseph or Advent or anyone else, but that was my choice. Like anyone else has their own personal choice. So that's all I can say. Thank you, Mr. Dingfelder.
Mr. Maniscalco, your hand up, sir?
And just a quick fact about Tampa General Hospital, I believe it's ranked number 4 in the country for transplants. So it is nationally recognized beyond this community. Just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Well, I can say I've had experience at Tampa General Hospital as a police officer, getting people there. They've been shot, brutally beaten, all kind of situations. And me having COVID, I was a patient there for several days. I don't know what the caller's intent was or what knowledge he has, but I can tell you that those folks over there, they work hard over there. And I know COVID is a tough time, but most people that go to the hospital with COVID, they're pretty sick. I'm just going to tell you right now, when you got to go to the hospital with COVID, you're pretty sick. And I guess they're trying to do what they have to do, whatever their procedures are, but I can tell you when I went there, I was sick. They did what they had to do, and I came out. Because I know several people that went there when I went there didn't come out. And I've lost several friends over the last week that didn't get vaccinated and didn't make it and went to the hospital. So we respect the caller's comments, but I just want to make it clear that Tampa General Hospital is one of the finest hospitals around the country. So we need to move on. Mr. Miranda, any more for public comment, Madam Deputy Clerk?
We had one other person registered, Dana Lazarius. However, she did not log on, so that concludes our public comment portion.
Thank you. We'll go into our last second round of questions and comments. Mr. Miranda, do you have anything, sir?
No, sir, I'm fine. I think we've done an excellent job in the presentation, the way we answered the question. All council members, I think, did an excellent job in dissecting.
Ms. Dingfelder, any further comments, sir?
On the budget or new business?
No, on the budget.
On the budget, no, I'm good right now. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Citro.
I'd like to thank Councilman Miranda for his comment about our employees. If it wasn't for our employees, this city would not operate properly. Thank you to everybody who is on our staff. Thank you to our Tampa family.
Mr. Carlson.
Nope, thank you, sir.
Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. Real quick, in regards to Villa Brothers Park, I heard things along the line of, we're leaning towards, we're working on, we're in that direction, we're looking to, but really no guarantee. And what I'd like to see between now and the second reading of this budget is a guarantee from the administration as to what they're going to do, what the timeline is going to be for Villa Brothers Park, whether they bond it out, however they get the funding for it. But I want to see this get done. It's been 16 years, and the neighborhood, the community has been asking for it. The family has been asking for it. This neighborhood in those 16 years has grown significantly, and a lot of other parts of the city received even more. In regards to parks, I remember when we supported Julian B. Lane Park at $36 million, the mayor wanted it open by Mother's Day, my Mother's Day weekend, and it was open by Mother's Day weekend. So when someone wants to get something done, it gets done. I would hope that the administration feels the same way, and that they come back at the second reading with what the plan is. I can't have, we're looking at it, we're working on it, then next year and the year after we have the same discussion. I need it finished. Time is of the essence. Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco, were you making a motion, sir?
Sure. That would be a motion that the administration come back. That would be Chief of Staff John Bennett and our Chief Financial Officer upon second reading, which I believe is, the 28th of this month? And let us know how we will be funding this park. Again, I want to see it completed. I want a plan in place, whether it's part of a bonding process, whether they find the money from a certain area of the budget. Again, we could split it up in two parts, two payments. But we finished that master plan that the city prepared and finished several years ago. So we know what we need to do. Everything has been done. It's about breaking ground and building and moving forward. So that would be my motion.
Mr. Miranda, you want to chime in, sir?
I'm going to support the motion, but I guarantee you from where I got it from, it's going to get done, but I'll support the motion.
And
Mr. Vieira, you're right.
thank you. And let me also add to that, if I may, maybe a friendly amendment, I don't know. But, maybe Councilman Maniscalco wants to do a separate motion where we go ahead and calendar, because I believe that this administration is going to get this done. I fundamentally believe that. I believe that because they're saying it's going to get done, and I believe it because of the values that Villa Brothers Park represents. This is a park that is a patriotic park that supports the men and women who serve in military. This city doesn't have a park like that, another park like that. We don't have a park like the County Veterans Park. And this is somewhere where we can really, really start on that. I always, I try to go to as many veterans events as I can, and I always joke with people that a lot of times historically, the city has allowed the county to take the lead on some of these events. And I joke that we can't always let our friends in the county take the lead on that. And this park is a values-based park that I know that this administration strongly supports. However, I would maybe ask Councilman Maniscalco if he wishes to, concurrent with his motion, also maybe schedule from now, we're in September, maybe May of next year, to have a report set up to report on the status of Villa Brothers Park. So you can go, hey, listen, it's been 7 months. Where are we at? Trust but verify. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then to work with the administration on finding the money. Where's it going to come from? The reserves, whatever it may be. But just a thought in that regard.
Thank you very much.
I saw Mr. Carlson's hand.
Yeah, I liked Councilman Vieira's idea. I think it's a good idea to, if Mr. Maniscalco would accept it, to add a report at some point. I said this before, but in a way, it breaks my heart every time Martha Villa and her family have to beg us for this money that the city promised under the last administration. It's really sad. As you all talked about, this park is not just a neighborhood park, but it represents war heroes and veterans and widows and family members, and we can't treat them like that. We have to fix this wrong, and I think we have to insist on putting this in the budget. That $800,000 has to be in this year's budget and next year's budget. We need to get this done. We had a presentation by the Budget Advisory Committee last week. They said there might be $40 million in slush funds. I was hearing today it might be 15 or 20 million, but there's money there. We just need to make sure we explicitly say it. And the reason to do it and the reason to be explicit and have these meetings is so that the Villa family doesn't have to beg for this anymore. And it's not that it's something that they just want. It's something that they were promised, and we need to, even though we didn't make the promise, we need to make sure the city lives up to the promise. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Maniscalco made a motion. Mr. Vieira asked for a friendly amendment. What is your pleasure, Mr. Maniscalco, with your motion, sir? He has a second. Well, he has a second by Mr. Dingfeld.
Yeah. And that is for the administration, meaning Chief of Staff John Bennett, who's on the call today, and our CFO, to tell me how they fund it. I need a guarantee. I want to know, we can make promises all day, but I want to see it done. And then I'll make a separate motion that we get a report April 7th, 2022 on the status of construction work updates, anything that's going on in the park.
I'm hearing two motions.
No, that'll be separate. The first one is that.
So let's get through the first one first,
all right.
Sir.
The motion is that at second reading, at our second budget public hearing, that our CFO and our Chief of Staff come back with how Villa Brothers will be funded for that 1.6 million, meaning how we will complete it. I would like a guarantee. I would like a commitment. Not, we're looking at it, we're heading in that direction. I need more than that so we can put this to bed and move forward. And that would be my motion.
Madam Clerk, did you get all that? Motion to put on the floor, Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Dingfeld. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call. Mr. Shelby is saying we need a roll call.
Please.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Vieira? Yes. Citro?
Absolutely.
Miranda?
Yes.
And Good?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
And then the second motion, thank you very much. The second motion is that the administration come back after, of course, staff reports April 7th, 2022. It's a regular city council meeting, and give us an update on the status of park improvements and how things are coming along in Villa Brothers Park.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Dingfelder. You want to require a roll call on this, Mr. Shelby?
in keeping consistent with this hearing, why don't we do
All
that?
right, Madam Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Could I just,
You're
sorry to
recognized,
add sorry to add another wrinkle. Councilman Maniscalco, do you, along those lines, do you want to set up another one 6 months or a year after that? Just so we don't have to make a separate motion later?
Let me look at the calendar, so.
My suggestion, council, just so you know, the calendar doesn't go that far out, so.
Okay, all right,
I mean,
thank
certainly
you.
you could bring it back in time.
It goes to October. Well, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong year. No, yeah, it'll be October, but we'll make that motion later on. There's plenty of time.
Madam Clerk, do you have the current motion? Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Dingfelder. Roll call vote, please.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
And Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Chair?
You're recognized, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, sir. And I would just again, and by the way, for the public, Councilman Maniscalco's sick. Poor guy. So God bless him for doing that while he's sick. But one thing I would urge everyone who's in favor of this as well is to try to find ways within the budget to make this happen. Again, I brought up, just top of my head, reserves, whatever. But just an idea in that regard. Thank you, sir.
All right, I think I left off at Mr. Dingfelder. I had nothing. Mr. Citro had nothing. That's correct.
I've already spoke.
All right, Mr. Carlson.
We're finished.
Maniscalco had made his motion. Mr. Vieira, you be the last one. I have nothing. In that case, we will close the public comment for operating capital budgets.
Move to close.
Mr.
Second.
I don't think we need a motion for that, I don't believe. Do we, Mr. Shelby?
For that, no. That's fine.
Maybe we don't need a motion for that.
No.
Mr. Harrell, what's the next item, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will the Finance Chair please make a motion to adopt the tentative millage rate?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Chairman, I move to tentatively adopt the proposed millage rate of 6.2076 mils, which is 4.56% more than the rollback millage rate of 5.9367 mils for property tax fund, which are used to support the general fund operating budget of the city of Tampa.
Second.
Mr. Miranda made a motion. Mr. Citro has seconded. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira. Yes. Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
And Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Harrell, what's the next item, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will the Finance Chair please provide the first reading of the ordinance?
The chairman move ordinance for first reading, an ordinance adopting the budget of the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, ending September 30th, 2022, as presented by the mayor, providing for the levy as provided by law of a tax on all taxable properties in the city of Tampa and fixing the millage rate within said city, making appropriations in the accordance with the provisions of said budget, authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk as the proper authorities of the city of Tampa to certify the property appraiser of Hillsborough County, Florida, the millage to be levied for all purposes for the fiscal year 2022 in the city of Tampa, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Dingfelder. Roll call vote, please.
Vieira. Yes. Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Harrell, what's the next item, sir?
Please make a motion to adjourn, sir.
Motion is
So moved.
Mr. Vieira?
And I appreciate it, people's indulgence. Just 1 second, I wanted to make a request, and I know everyone's going to support this 110% and be happy about it. Well, not happy on the circumstances. Our good friend Joe Greco is leaving. He's not leaving Tampa Fire. He is leaving the presidency of Tampa Firefighter 754, and he wanted to come, if the chair permits, for 5 minutes on the 23rd, September 23rd, to speak before City Council just on his thoughts of being the outgoing union president. Would that be something you would allow, sir?
That troublemaker?
I know, right? I know this.
I will second that, if that's a motion.
Mr. Shelby, can we make that motion at this budget hearing, or should that be made
Or
at,
maybe not even make a motion, just to bring it to your attention, because I couldn't.
Mr. Shelby?
Well, we do
That
have
appropriate,
information,
or-
we do have information reports of new business by council members. Madam Clerk, is that something you would consider for this budget hearing?
Yes, you can make new motions.
All right.
And that's all, nothing
Mr.
else.
Mr. Vieira has made a motion. I think Mrs. Maniscalco has seconded it. And Madam Clerk, did you get that? Okay. All in favor?
And of course, we'll bring him a commendation and all.
All right. I believe Mr. Dingfellow kept holding his hand up. You had something, sir?
If you're doing new business, I was directed by the illustrious Cynthia Sarf to make a motion. And so on October 21st, the invocation will be given by a fantastic lady, Sherry Silk, who's the longtime president of the Humane Society of Tampa Bay. And she likes to give us periodically an update on Humane Society and the good work that they do for the little animals. So they're asking for 5 minutes following her invocation, or whenever Mr. Chair would accommodate at the beginning of the meeting on October 21st.
Second.
Ms. Shelby, you're recognized.
If it's 5 minutes, Councilman, I just want to bring to your attention, October 21st, you have 1, 2, 3 commendations and the presentation of FDOT on your
That
regular
police,
session
fire
of
that week?
October 21st. What?
Police and fire that week, Ms. Shelby?
Presentation, no, actually, the commendation is for the House of Hope providing support.
Yeah.
And then we have the Hands of Hope Sickle Cell Awareness Foundation. And then we have a commendation for the USA Women's Softball Silver Medalists in honor of the coaching team, Ken Erickson. And then you have the FDOT presentation for the update to City Council on projects within the city.
Okay. Can we squeeze it real quick, Mr. Dingfellow?
Right, so 2 things. Number 1, she is coming for the invocation. I just thought it'd be convenient. And number 2 is I so rarely request any of council's time during any of these types of ceremonial stuff, and I think this is really important stuff. So.
Dingfellow's made a motion. Second, Mr. Carlson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you for your indulgence.
Motion carried.
Did we close the hearing?
We're going to close it now, sir.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Hero, any other items, sir, before I close the hearing?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. For motion to close the first public hearing.
Motion to move first public hearing.
All right, Mr. Miranda has moved it. It was a second by Mr. Vieira.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Shelby, you're recognized.
And just before you adjourn, Mr. Chairman, just a motion to receive and file, please.
So moved.
Second.
You got to get the first motion clear right first, right, Madam Chair? All right. It was Mr. Miranda, Mr. Vieira, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll get motion to and file.
Motion release and file.
Mr. Miranda,
Second.
Mr. Citro, all in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman. Have a nice evening.
All right.
Good.
This is such an odd shaped lot. You can imagine, a cubicle